The SEC is in hot water. Justin Trudeau throws cold water on freedom, and the dollar is underwater. All that and more on Around the Blockchain. Welcome, everybody. It's getting super real here on Around the Blockchain. This episode, it's on Freaky Friday. We're talking about whatever the heck we want, and we have some important topics to discuss. And we have some of the brightest minds, not just in crypto, in the world here to talk about it. So let's start with Piano Matty B in the Sovereign People's Republic of Canada. How are you doing tonight?
Academy Award winner and Golden Globe nominee Nikki Diamonds DeMonte filling in for DZ in a role some say is the performance of a lifetime, based on the best-selling novel by John Grisham, Bitcoin Be Thy Name. How's it going, Nikki?
Yo, that's you're my hype man. You are hired. Let's go talk. Let's talk to Rice. Rice is here with us. Are you working for?
I don't think I can follow that up, man. But go ahead.
I mean, look,
Antifa.
I was about to say, it's like the high priest of Antifa joins us tonight.
No, this is my anti-surveillance get up. So if I was to live in Australia or China, this is how I would be in public because I don't want my face being scanned everywhere.
Speaking of facial scans, Crypto Blood, how many facial scans? Yeah. Does someone have to go? Baby. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you require facial scans to sign up for Bloodalytics?
No.
Okay.
No, but he does require a DNA sample and a social security number.
Oh,
that's funny. That's
okay.
Funny.
And last but certainly not least, we have our old friend Vic from the People's Sovereign Republic of Canada. How are you doing, sir?
I wish I could do a little better, but they want to shut us up, man, and that's what we're here to talk about. So I can't wait to get into this.
We're going to talk about a lot today, but just in case you're new here, what Around the Blockchain does is we talk in a round panel, sometimes a square panel, but if you like what the people are saying, go ahead and say their name and hit +1, send it in the chat, and they will get a score. And the person who has the highest score at the end of the show gets a little 30-second send-off. They can pump whatever they want, as long as it's not a crypto token. So that's basically how the show goes. It's off the chain. It's off the hook. We're going to talk, but first of all, let's go. This is Around the Blockchain. This is our channel. We're at about 18,000 subscribers. It's a pretty good channel, you know. We're out here doing it Monday through Friday, and we're going to be doing weekend videos as well. So we're climbing up there slowly but surely. We got to catch Frankie Candles. But let's get into it right now. So the SEC, our old friends, the SEC, they are under attack. Okay, we should really feel bad for them. Okay, basically, a very mean letter was sent by Patrick Mahenry and Bill Wazenga criticizing Gary Gensler for his insufficient commitment to comply with the committee's document request. They basically said, hey, you got to give us a whole bunch of these documents about FTX. We need them now. And the SEC sent them a bunch of public documents. And these guys said, no. You have until April 17th to turn over everything we want until we are satisfied, or else. So they basically subpoenaed Gary Gensler without subpoenaing Gary Gensler. And the entire SEC is in the crosshairs at the moment. So let's see. It's been a lot of arguing back and forth. There's a lot of dirty dealings with Gary Gensler and FTX. Like Gary had been meeting with Sam frequently, a lot before the collapse, months before the collapse. And he was in cahoots with Sam during the whole thing with Sam's bill. I forget what the name of the bill was, but the one they were talking about at the end of last year. This was all a sham, and this was all had Gary's fingerprints all over it. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that Gary has actually released any of his calendar still for that last half of 2022. I don't think so. But let's go to Piano Matty B. Is this rough justice letter coming from these two politicians? Is this just a standard, partisan retribution? Is there some sort of like deep state trading? Should any normie really care about this?
Well, I mean, these psychos, Nikki, with their lies and their corruption, it's just the epitome of Kabuki theater, not to be confused with Bukkake theater. But what happens is that he's got to go and take these guys into the back room and say, Dirty Gary Gensler, that is, hey, ease up on the hard balls. Do you want everyone to know where this money went? Do you really want the American public to know that we've been funneling money to this Ukraine proxy war? What about all those biochemical labs that we've been funding with the adrenochrome and harvesting children's organs? Do we really want the American public to know about that? No. So just ease up on the pressure. Let it all fade away in a couple months. It's going to be SBF who? We'll put it under the rug and file it under whatever happened to.
That is, you said all the words to get us demonetized. Thank you, Piano Matty B. It's been a great around the blockchain.
Oh, we're just getting started here, Nick.
Okay, Rice.
Yeah, well, you haven't even.
I know.
I haven't said a word yet.
Yeah, welcome to Around the Alex Jones. Vic, I apologize. So, okay, so Rice, Gary Gensler. He's part of the deep state, right? Like this is established. Are they trotting him out as a sacrificial lamb because they know that they can basically pin him to the wall, and then when the recession hits later this year, everyone's hair is going to be on fire. So he's a sacrificial lamb. He'll fade into the background, or is there actual like retribution in mind for these politicians, or again, is this just horse trading?
I don't know, man. I mean, it seems like what I like to think about politics is right wing, left wing, same bird. So, I mean, they're all working towards the same agenda.
There it is.
I do
Put it on a
feel like
shirt.
there might be a few politicians that don't fit that necessary equation. There are some that are speaking out. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, look at the different governors that have been speaking out. Anywhere from you have DeSantis, you have Governor Noem in South Dakota, you have Texas doing what they're doing with introducing a potential gold-backed currency. You have Tulsi Gabbard speaking out, and amongst other governors that are trying to veto this UCC law. The government's corrupt. It's public knowledge. And not only that, the SEC is corrupt, and it's pretty much public knowledge. And this is an unelected official. Nobody elected Gary Gensler in his position. He was put in that position by the people that were supposedly elected. Now, we know that Gary Gensler has been meeting numerous times, probably has had more meetings with Sam Bankman-Fried and or individuals at FTX than any other cryptocurrency project. There's a lot of speculation that because it looks like there is a war against cryptocurrency, and it seems to be like a political party thing, like they're trying to weaponize it. It seems to be coming from the Democratic direction. And we've seen collusion happening along with Senator Warren in the SEC. We see the SEC going after different entities, not clarifying regulations so that they can continue to go after entities. So this is all a game. Now, Gary Gensler, he's been in government positions for quite some time. He's just a really good puppet. He's good at doing what he's going to do, and he'll take the fall when it comes down to it, and that'll be his end. But he's been involved in government-related positions for quite some time, and he's been involved in some numerous scandalous issues as well for quite some time. So he's good at doing what he does. He's good at taking orders. He's good at being a puppet, and eventually, yeah, they will. I mean, when this thing really comes down to it and they're going to have to put the blame on someone, he will be the one. He will be the scapegoat.
So it sounds like he's just buying time while his golden parachute is being stitched together.
Blood. Who knows? I mean, he'll end up on an island somewhere chilling with everybody else.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, an island with a temple, a conspicuous temple in the middle. Blood.
Not by the name of James, by the way.
So there's tribalism everywhere. There's tribalism in crypto. In the United States, there's tons of political tribalism. What's it going to take for crypto to get over themselves, crypto Twitter to get over themselves, and actually have a unified stance against these rats? What is it going to take? What is the message that we can get behind? Or is there
when all of our liberties are gone, but then it's too late. So that's the problem. So I think, I mean, in hindsight, that's what it's going to be, but it will be too late, in my opinion. When we can't trade or buy or sell Ethereum, Bitcoin, or whatever, or only the protected elitist class can, then we'll be complaining and crying and saying, "Oh, boo-hoo, woo-hoo." But back to Gensler, man, he's part of the protected class, guys. I mean, he's 18 years at Goldman Sachs. He worked under the Obama administration, I think, for the CFTC at that point. And he's a white liberal Jew. He's good, man. Nothing's happening. Rice, sorry. Nothing's happening. He won't go to jail. He won't be in trouble. All of this is it's a hood term called flogging. And so what the House committee is doing is just flogging. They're just acting like they're really looking into this. They're deep diving into it for the American people. They want to get to the bottom of this, but they really don't. They're never going to. I lost faith in everything when the whole FISA court stuff happened, because so many things were shifted and rules broken back in the FISA situation when Trump was in office, that I just said, you know what, this is nonsense. The country is pretty much gone. I know we're going to talk about what if, we're going to move to a different country at some point because of all these issues, but I have no faith, man, at this point. I think the only way we can have some change is to actually take some action physically and violently. And I don't know if our community, our country is ready for that. I don't think so.
So folks like Ryan Selkis saying he's going to run for office, you're not buying that? You think that's just like a nice gesture, but ultimately worthless? Who? Ryan Selkis.
Who?
Okay.
Yeah, who is that?
Oh, okay.
Ryan Selkis runs Masari Crypto, one of the big data analyst firms out there.
Listen, running for office is unfortunately not going to do it. I talked a bit, Ben Armstrong. Yep. He's trying to do a lot of things on the Hill. I'm just not convinced that's the action or direction we should go, man.
Yeah,
it's just not. Nothing's going to happen. We're gonna hit a brick wall, the same wall that's behind Rice right now. We're gonna smack right into it.
So there's a lot of bearishness right now. There's a lot of bearishness just overall in leadership. Vic, yes. I know you're really feeling the pinch right now. And, you come from the land, which is America's hat. And so there's a lot of back and forth between the United States. And what happens in Canada translates over to America and vice versa. You guys export celebrities to us, and we seem to export authoritarianism back to you. So are you at all bullish on our countries kind of getting back to a level of sanity? And I know we're going to talk about C11 in a minute, but let's talk about like the financial aspect of things real quick. Like, do you see any hope in Canada for having people's financial freedom be reset, or is that well off? As the fight hasn't even begun yet?
There is just an agenda. Clearly, I mean, everyone on this call is pretty much in the same boat, right? There's an agenda through this corruption. The agenda has like an end goal, one target, one singular event that they're working towards. It's not some uncoordinated thing. If you guys can guess what that is, anyone on the panel, can you guess what it is? What are they trying to do? They're trying to create a CBDC. They're trying to lock us out.
Are they?
Yeah, exactly.
I've never heard this before. This is news to me.
So this is what they're trying to do. So every move is just a chess move to get to that spot. Like look at Gensler. Like we're talking about Gensler. Look at where he comes from. You talked about Obama administration. We talked about he's been in other political positions, but he's at MIT in their blockchain development center, essentially, which was working on an open source CBDC. That's like one of their primary projects. He's been linked to CBDCs for years now. So I think that's the angle. And it's not the individual people we have to be worried about. It's just that target that is just like, it will destroy freedom. No, it doesn't matter if it's here in Canada or in the United States or Australia or New Zealand or the UK, wherever they have a central bank digital currency that is a centralized blockchain that's controlled and programmed by a government, by a central bank. And then we don't need bank accounts and we don't need cash, but they can just make your money expire. They can pull the taxes right from your account. They can block you from buying stuff. Like I saw it firsthand. I'm sure you guys did too. But when all that trucker stuff was happening down or up here, they were locking bank accounts. A lot of people reference that still a lot, but that's crazy. They were locking people's bank accounts just for going and protesting, just for saying, I don't want a jab. Stop trying to enforce it.
Man, this one might just get shut down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This may be the last stream for Around the Blockchain.
Or it might be a 7-day.
Let's go out with a
pause.
bang, guys.
Right?
If this is
Right.
it, let's do what we got to say.
There's no turning back at this point, Nick.
I know.
And that's my mentality right now. Straight up, that's my mentality right now, because like with Bill C-11, they're trying to literally censor social media. They're trying to create a law that has a government entity create basically a firewall around Canada to mask.
They're doing the same thing in the United States, though, my friend. It's happening all around the world.
Restrict that. It sounds
just like the Restrict Act.
Similar to Restrict Act. A little bit different, but still similar to Restrict Act.
Similar.
Well, let me go ahead and give some context to this, because Vic, I can feel the pain in your voice. And I was flicking through TikTok before the show, and I searched for C11, and I could just see all these like huge creators. What's the girl's name? Call Me Chris. I don't know if you can see. Call Me Chris. Like, she's a gigantic creator. 49 million followers on TikTok alone. I think she has 20 million on YouTube.
I didn't know that.
She came out
people in Canada.
Right? I know. I don't even think there is. But so she came out against C11. Basically, what the situation is, C11 is it's basically a digital content or content creation act. So Canada's always been like very pro-Canadian production. Like, I know I come from the film industry, and their unions are very hard to get into. It's, if you're going to do a production in Canada, you have to hire Canadian crew. You got to hire Canadian filmmakers. There's a very communist-sounding entity called CanCon, which monitors Canadian content. And so they're kind of rolling this together into a new way of controlling speech and prioritizing CanCon-approved speech on every single platform, not just YouTube, not just TikTok, on literally everything. So everything in Canada, they're going to basically tweak the algorithm. And I can tell you one thing, Google and YouTube are not happy about this. I actually found a post from Jeanette Patel. She is the head of Canadian Government Affairs and Public Policy at YouTube. This is her Twitter. Thumbs up to Jeanette. She came out hard against this bill, saying that she's trying to work with policymakers. She's trying to improve this bill. They had a bunch of improvements early on, but then on March 7th, the government gave notice that a motion that rejects the Senate amendment of user-generated content after hundreds of thousands of letters to MP, senators, and witness testimony and creator videos, it's deeply troubling that a reasonable compromise was rejected, and that not only responded to the concerns of Canada's digital creators and users, but also reflected the government's own stated intent with regards to user-generated content. So YouTube is not down with this. TikTok is not down with this. They're going to have to submit their algorithms to CanCon. CanCon is, in effect, going to say, yes, this is approved speech, or no, this is not approved speech. So, Vic, did I summarize it well enough? You have been preaching about this for weeks now. Tell us what we need to know. Go, bro.
So the CRTC controls all communications, whether it's TV, radio in Canada. And like you said, like if you want to make a movie, you got to hire Canadians. Radio stations, they need a certain percentage of their music to be Canadian. I think it's like 30% or something of the music played on the radio has to be from Canadian artists. There's songs here that I grew up with that are super, super famous. And in the States, no one's ever heard them. It's a really weird, like living in a bubble type of a thing. Anyway, they want to give...
Canada had music.
Yeah, dude.
They have Rush.
Drake,
come on.
Bro.
I'm just playing,
Justin
bro.
Bieber
and Bare Naked Ladies, Atlanta's people.
Oh, the six guy.
You guys can have Bare Naked Ladies.
I forgot about Drake.
Yeah, Drake is like the one, right?
Yeah.
But the CRTC is going to be able to now monitor the social media algorithms and push the content that it feels is in line with Canadian values. The funny thing is they don't actually specify or define Canadian values. So it's just this hoopla bullshit for them to actually have control over what's happening on the internet. The main reason this is getting
name for Canada, Kamina. That's your new name. Kamina.
I've heard China,
or Canadistan.
This is the really funny part, guys. Is that like Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, is pushing this so hard? Because if you go on the internet in Canada, not one single person has anything good to say about this guy. I think his approval rate is less than 20% now. It's nothing. But the time now where this bill's going to get passed, he's now starting his own YouTube channel. It started last week. And it's so funny if you go to the comment section, everyone's ripping this guy apart. Everyone fucking hates this guy. Sorry, I'm
surprised they don't have
comments.
It's okay.
Turned off.
But I know I'm thinking the same thing. Those comments are not going to last long. It's just ripping him apart. Like I see trucks in my city, cars in my city. They have big vinyl on the back. Trudeau must go. There's these logos. Fuck Trudeau has a middle finger. It's like there's like
how does it work in Canada? How does your political system work as far as voting and stuff?
Well, hey, Blood, that's a great question. Actually, I'd like to throw that to Piano Matty B to get his Canadian word in on this thing, because he's a man of the people. He's in the bars. He's looking at people drinking their cares away. Matty B, what is the situation here? Because you hear like, oh, Trudeau is a 20% approval rating, but they have a multi-party voting system, so you can actually win an election with a really terrible approval rating, right?
Wow.
Yeah, you can get a minority up here, and there's 3 parties, and there's just some miscellaneous, but usually 2 of the minorities will kind of get a coalition government is what it's called. But you know what Vic said? I subscribe to everything he says, and I like to think in my bubble that the majority of people that I come across are like-minded and they think Trudeau must go. But then when I step outside my bubble, so for instance, when I do the live piano bar, it's in a bar, the public comes, I'll say a couple things over the mic and it'll just be like silence and crickets. And people think that I'm a crazy conspiracy theory. And then when I do have some conversations, even with family members, like, so when you brought up the truckers, I remember that was kind of what, like my coming out of the bubble phase of a year or so ago, when I was talking with people a lot, and I went to a family get together and everyone was like, these goddamn truckers, you know, I can't believe they're doing it in this country. I'm like, you guys are joking, right? You're joking. You're being facetious, aren't you? And they weren't. They were dead serious. And so you have to understand that in this country, it's basically a communist country, and 80% of the population are government workers, whether they're teachers, nurses, work for the city, work for the government. And then you have entrepreneurs. So you'll find a correlation between entrepreneurs and non-compliance, right? Because we basically sit here all our life and no one says that we can't do anything. And then all of a sudden someone says, hey, you can't do that. And then we're like, no, we can. And we're going to do whatever we want. But those 80%, they're so used to the boss just saying, you know, we're going to implement this strategy. We're going to start talking about this. I have a family filled with teachers, and then whatever the administrators say, we're going to push this on the kids, they just do it. They don't ask questions. They don't ask why, or maybe this isn't a good idea. They don't even have a quorum about it. They just say, this is what's coming down. This is what we got to do. And that's what happens. So it's really scary here. And I'd like to say that I'm optimistic, and I usually say losers are losers and they'll eventually lose, but that could take a long time, you know, 10 or 20 years before we see this thing come around and the winners win. And one last thing, when it comes to CanCon, you have no idea how bad the CanCon is up here. So like if you took a middle school drama/video editing course in Muskogee, somewhere far, far away in the sticks, and you said you have to come up with content for a CBC channel, that would be better than what they pour the millions of dollars into the CanCon that you see. Just for your own enjoyment, go to YouTube and just go Canadian content TV shows, and they're the worst. They're all Pioneer Days, murder mysteries, old school, like they all take place in the 1800s or 1900s, and they're murder mysteries. The whole industry is all this. It's really quite a shame.
Man, yeah, that's rough. That's tough to hear. Rice, when so people would call us conspiracy theorists, right? You'll be sitting around the table at Thanksgiving, and you'll just try to mention this, like, and it's hard to just not, you know, go full Alex Jones and turn people off. Like, what is a way when someone says you're blowing this out of proportion? How can our audience say something and like lead them to, hey, you should actually get a little bit more informed?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that people need to do is stop listening to like their mainstream media outlets as the narrative, because that's a narrative that they're choosing to share with you, and that's the narrative that most people that you would call shape are following. So the people that want to use critical thinking, which may be a crime very soon, you know, those are the ones that are going to look and try to find out a little bit more about what's going on. And now, as far as the conspiracy theorists, I mean, I think we're beyond that point. It was just more of a, if you want to call it anything, a conspiracy realist or just a realist in general, because these things are reality. And I think most of these things have been proven. What you have said a couple years ago to many of your friends and family trying to wake them up, a lot of those people have realized that what you said back then is true. And a lot of those people have come to me, and probably many of you watching and many of you that are participating in this stream. The big thing about this is, we see what I saw about Canada from growing up in the United States, learning about their medical system, started learning a little bit more about that. And then I started, it sounded great, but then I started realizing that is a part of socialism, and a big part of socialism. And it really kind of opened my eyes that Canada was kind of leaning more in a socialist direction. And there's a lot of information. There's theories about whether or not Fidel Castro is Trudeau's dad.
Here we go.
His mother did write a book and did talk about having an affair with Castro. And if you look at pictures of Castro, he looks just like Trudeau. Now, again, this is not 100% proven, but most Canadians know this information. The unfortunate thing is, ultimately, what this comes down to, and one of the easiest ways to explain this to people who just aren't awake, is letting them see that speech from Klaus Schwab in 2017, where he talks very dirty about penetrating cabinets and being very proud of the young generation, and being proud that at least half, if not more than half, of Trudeau's cabinet were young global leaders. Also adding that Argentina and France back in 2017 were also at least half, if not more, young global leaders. Even Vladimir Putin was a former young global leader. So it looks as if there is a global agenda with all these different nations and different presidents, or whatever their positions might be, that are playing the role that's ultimately going to lead to one end point. And we can see the central bank digital currency being introduced. There's already talks and introduction of the digital ID. And you combine that with things like social credit and carbon credit, and you basically you have a digital prison.
Total control.
Nick, when you explain that to people logically, there is no conspiracy in that, because all of this stuff has been spelled out. It's very clear on the World Economic Forum website, very clear, that by 2030, their agenda is for every single one of us not to own a thing and to be very happy about it. Happy, happy, joy, joy. And,
Nick,
people just,
Nick, let me just
and
say
I
this
agree
really
with what
quickly.
Blood said. We do need to take a stand. And when enough people
What are you
take a
talking about?
stand,
He's talking for you, Blood.
People.
He's talking for you,
Go
Blood.
ahead.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey,
Blood,
it wasn't even your turn, man. I wanted to finish my turn, but go ahead.
Blood, you have something to say? I do have a question for you, but go for it, Blood.
At the end of the day, you ask them, how can you change people's opinion? It's this famous saying. It's like, when your neighbor loses his job, it's a recession. When you lose your job, it's a depression. People won't change until it like directly affects them, man. That's when it changes. And so you're seeing that, like, with the women's rights, like, women are getting upset because now this whole other movement is coming in.
Bro, we can't even go there. We cannot go there, bro.
I'm not saying the word, but
No.
Now they're mad. And so that's what I'm saying. People won't change until they actually are affected directly, man.
But okay, so hang on. I need to push back against that, Blood, because I feel like everyone is being affected by the manipulation of money. Like, is this just like a boiling the frog situation?
They don't know it, Nick. Most people don't understand their wealth is being eroded by inflation every day. Still, to this day, we do. We're in the bubble. That's what Vic just said. In our bubble, I think, Matty, in our bubble, we know it. But most people still don't know that their wealth is being eroded every day by inflation.
Yeah.
Most
they are waking up a little bit more, though.
Yeah, Vic, I actually want to go to you real quick. Do you think the protests in Paris accelerated this C11 trajectory?
Absolutely, man. You can look, I saw a TikTok from a guy who basically said, look up Paris on Instagram right now, and then look up Paris on TikTok right now. And Paris on Instagram was like, the Eiffel Tower, people drinking cappuccinos. And then Paris on TikTok was what's really going on, which is the storming of BlackRock headquarters, burning and protests in the streets and strikes from city workers. This stuff is important stuff. And they don't want us to see it, because they don't want us to think for a second, hey, we can like go outside and start saying shit and start putting our bodies in front of them where they can't ignore us. And that's what they did. And I'm going to bring up the truckers again. And that's what they did in Ottawa. And Trudeau wouldn't even get out of his fucking castle to talk to them. Instead, he went on the news. He went on CBC, which is government funded at this point. It's completely manipulated media. And that's our media here. That's like you going on to watch Fox or CNN and it being lobbied by the government. Like everything is paid for now. And that's proven. And the opposition in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, who's a conservative, is coming out and saying to Elon Musk, every single CBC post on Twitter, you should be putting a disclaimer under it, Elon, that this is government paid media. This is all bullshit. It's all lies. It's pushed by Trudeau.
They did
but
that to
they
NPR,
don't want
I think.
What's that?
I think they tagged NPR as state-sponsored media.
They did.
NPR deleted their account. So
yeah
I agree with you, Vic. I just wanted to, acknowledge what you said and agree.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And CBC should be next, and I think Elon will do it. The thing is, though, they really don't want us to bond together. They don't want us talking to each other. It's the same thing with the Restrict Act. It's the same thing with the TikTok ban. It's not about TikTok. It's about people.
Right. TikTok's not even mentioned in the Restrict Act, my friend. It's not even mentioned. TikTok is not even mentioned at all. So that should wake people up to realize there's more to the actual agenda. Because if it was about TikTok, you would see TikTok mentioned.
Yeah, factual.
Exactly. Okay. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I do want to
I'm sorry, Nick.
No.
I hope you don't get fired after all this.
No. I look, man. My value is beyond this job. My value is in a higher place with a higher person.
Joking, but I know you couldn't control everybody here, so I apologize.
Hey, look,
sorry,
that's
Nick.
fine. But I do want to make sure, like, I know when I host, things can kind of get loosey goosey and kind of wild. But like, we're talking about real stuff here, and I want to make sure that we're not just bearish and doom and gloom. Like, we need to offer hope and a solution to people. And I know, like, the last segment's about practical money mindset stuff. We'll get to that. But like, I want to go around the blockchain, and I want everyone from the panel to actually give me one thing someone here in the chat, the audience, can do to help affect change. One thing that is legal, one thing that is not any sort of like inappropriate direct action. I want one legal way that you can make your voice heard. Go around the blockchain. We're going to give people action. This is your homework. Okay. Let's start with Piano Matty B.
Legal, eh?
Yes.
See, that makes it a little tough.
Whether it's self-sovereignty or speaking out, whatever.
First, I'm going to say this is an awesome show today. This is one of the best I've ever seen. I'm going to say the same thing I tell everyone, like on a daily basis, and it's been amping up. I always say Bitcoin saves this. I mean, you have to get out of that system that's dying and start putting your wealth into your own hands. Take responsibility. Now, responsibility, you got to dial back and build it, right? You have to start by educating yourself. Start reading some books. If you're a man, start reading some books on Stoicism. If you're a woman, start reading books on Stoicism. They're great lessons to build yourself up slowly, not get from 0 to 10 right away, because that's never going to happen. You got to build slowly, educate yourself, exercise, be healthy, because when the shit hits the fan, they're going to need strong, healthy people to fight what's going to happen. And if you're not strong, you're not healthy of mind and body, well, I'm afraid you're just not going to make it.
Yeah. Here. Rice, what are your action items? What's the homework for the audience?
Agorism, AGORISM, and it deals with counter economics, parallel markets, breakaway communities. And the other thing that I would encourage people is to take the power away from the banks. If you can unbank yourself, then completely unbank yourself. If not, then I would say don't close up your small bank account and go to a bigger bank. You can use credit unions. They fall under something different than FDIC, and only leave in the bank what you need to cover your bills, because all the money that you leave in the bank gives the bank more power to lend out more money. So the less money they have in the banks, the less they can actually lend out. So remember that the power is in you. And really what I would encourage people to do is just completely unbank themselves. I know that's a little difficult for some, and I completely understand. There are prepaid cards. It is a way of kind of using banking without using banking, and it doesn't empower the banking system itself. So there are ways around it, and I will be covering stuff more like that on my channel, RiceTVx.
Awesome. Yeah, real quick before we go to blood, everyone follow all the people on this panel. Sorry. everyone follow everyone. Okay, we have to stick together right now. Blood, what's the homework
Stick
for the
together
audience?
like rice.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Or like blood. I would say,
Or
man,
bloody
and this is
rice.
probably gonna throw some people off. I think people need to develop physical labor skills, like learning how to do things physically with their hands, building things, becoming a carpenter, becoming a plumber, electrician. Those jobs that are still, I think, very in demand, highly in demand in the future, because AI is taking away 60 to 70% of these jobs, that these nice cushy jobs, six-figure jobs even, that people have today. So I would say look into that direction, build your capital, get yourself outside, like Maddie said, outside of the banking system with cryptocurrencies. So look at it as a tool, not so much as a speculation to try to get rich. Just to the act of even just being able to have your money outside of the banking system alone is priceless. Whatever the price of
Amen.
Bitcoin is, right?
Well said.
So let's try to do that.
Okay, Vic, what's the homework? How can people, we do have Canadian viewers, it's about 4% of our audience. How can they help push back against C11? What should people know? What's the homework?
It doesn't matter where you're from. It's just about being sovereign, learning how to be you without relying on other systems. And like I said, it doesn't matter where you're from. You need to understand that we're being pushed into like a socialistic structure, or a structure of socialism, especially here in Canada. We saw it with the pandemic. They gave everyone money, and they tried to get people reliant on government money because they want you to rely on them. So then you become a lazy piece of shit, and you don't have any labor skills, like Blood was saying. You don't know how to get your money out of the system, and you're just like a bum. And that's what they want, because they know if you're a bum and you can't meet your needs, then you can't think above that, and then you can't break free of their system. So you need to be sovereign. You need to be an individual that has independence, and financial independence, obviously super important, but like you need to really, really never accept. I feel really strongly about this. Don't ever accept or rely on government money. Like if the government sends you a check, really question if you really want to cash that check, because it's kind of like a drug, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like this guy, Vic.
And
round of applause.
Amen. Yeah, the first hit is always free. So real quick, we're going to wrap the show up soon, but I do want to get to this practical money mindset segment. We asked the community, we said, hey, what do you want us to cover more? And y'all said we want just like more mindset, more wealth mindset type of content. And look, everyone here on this panel, including myself, we've been through, and all of you have been through flu season. We've been through this, the winter of death. And then we've been through a gigantic money print like the world has never seen before. So we all kind of understand the gist that the dollar is sus, and it's at, lost 98% of its value. Vic tweeted that out today. We're hearing about BRICS. We're hearing about a credit bubble. So, okay, again, doom and gloom, but does this mean that we as people who are thinking a little bit outside of the box, we're not just consuming the programming? Does this mean we need to start orienting ourselves to looking at possibly moving outside of the country? And is there a way that we can store our wealth outside of the system that isn't Bitcoin and precious metals? And I'll start with, who should I start with? Well, we'll start with Rice. Rice is going to have a hot take about this. Where are you going to move? Is it Guatemala? Is it El Salvador?
I don't know, but it's not. I mean, it's not going to be Mexico, because I think Mexico is a honeypot right now. It's all the different Bitcoiners and crypto people that are moving down there. But it is in my plans, potentially, depending on the direction of our nation, that I may not be here and I may expatriate in some fashion. Where I might go, I'm not 100% sure yet. But as far as ways that people can try to accumulate some sort of wealth outside the system, and if people are considering that things are going to get worse before they get better, and there may be a time period where banks may even be closed, maybe you want to have some bartering items available to you. And I've mentioned this in the past. I mean, we've seen different commodities like toilet paper in 2020. Look how valuable that became. Things like ammunition, alcohol, medicine, things that are affordable to people that people can stock up on, including extra food. These are things that just being prepared for is not a bad thing, because ultimately you can just eat the food if it comes down to it. But being prepared for disappointment will definitely be your key to serenity in all this. And the other thing that I would add to what was said with the last question is, when it comes to skills, one thing, and being self-sufficient, that's another thing. We need to rely upon community, each other, your local community. So the more that you can think and act locally, but the more that you know about being able to grow your own foods, being able to hunt, being able to fish, these are things that you're going to need for self-sufficiency as well. So those are kind of what people would look at as prepping type viewpoints, but there's nothing wrong with prepping, because again, it does look like, based off our conversation, I'm sure everybody agrees that a lot of the things that are happening over the past few years, if not over the past several hundred years, have been by design, leading us up to this point that we're entering, that we're about to go into with this big brother surveillance state that they want to introduce all over the world with slave coin.
Yeah. Before I go to Vic, has anyone on the panel, are you familiar with the concept of the historical saculum and the fourth turning?
Yes.
Anyone here?
I've mentioned that.
Fourth turning for
sure.
I
got the book.
Yeah.
I've got the book, and it's fantastic, and I encourage people to check it out. I want to cover it more on Rice Against the Grain, but it has to do with sociological studies and the way that we have repetitive patterns that take place in different cycles, and a saculum is a time period that takes place with 4 turnings that average about 20 or so years each, making up a saculum. So and the 4th turnings always end up in some point in history where we're dealing with some sort of internal battles, whether it's a civil war, or external, whether it be like something like World War I. So the book is very fascinating. Tony Robbins does a really great interview with one of the 2 existing authors that's alive. Neil Strauss, I think is his name, if I remember it correctly. Yeah. And it wasn't too long ago that Tony Robbins had him on. A lot of macroeconomic people are very, very heavily looking into the 4th turning, and have been. Even someone like Mark Moss is very familiar with the 4th turning. So most money people in the space know exactly what we're talking about.
I highly, highly recommend a video by Casey Neistat's brother. I forget his first name, but Casey Neistat's brother did a video on the 4th turning. You could just YouTube 4th turning. It was like the video that like blew up his channel. It's a really great just summary of what the 4th turning is. And we are in it right now. And surprisingly enough, the end of the 4th turning is in 2030, which is exactly when the World Economic Forum has their date set to take over. Vic, are you looking at moving out of Canada? Do you think it's at that point now for like Bitcoiners, for free thinkers? Is it time to like start looking at that second passport? Or do you think that's an overreaction?
I've like been thinking about it. I just don't really know where I'd want to go. Because I mean, from Canada, where would I want to go? Right? Like the only place I can think of is Florida, and the States isn't too far off of the restrictions that we're starting to see in Canada. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I have a lot of research to do before I make any decision like that. For now, I feel like I'm going to stay put. I live right on the border. Like I live from my window in my office, which is right here. I can see Michigan. That's how close I am to
the UP.
Like I'm just a few minutes. Sorry.
You can see the UP.
The UP.
It's the Upper Peninsula. There's the mitten, and then there's like this part up here.
That's I guess I can.
Okay,
Michigan, that's where I am.
Yeah. So Blood.
Cool.
Let's talk about Upper Michigan. Financial illiteracy. It's shocking. It's everywhere. Is this generational? Do you see generations having more or less financial illiteracy, or is it across the board?
Are you saying financial literacy is up, or
illiteracy? Illiteracy.
Oh, yeah, it is, man.
Is it like a Gen Z thing, or like what do you think?
No, I think it's going to get worse. Like it has, we haven't had literacy in money it's been by design in our educational system.
It's our Department of Education. Exactly. Sorry.
Correct. Exactly. So no, you're right on, Rice. So that I don't think we've really ever had it. It's just that it's a shame, because now with the internet, everything is at your fingertips. So that just lets me know that people want to be dumb, like literally. I always love pointing people to Mike Maloney and his series on money and gold. Excellent. I think it really helped me understand things years ago when that first came out. So people should definitely go check that out if they haven't. But hey, you can't save everyone. I'm not going to try to. I'm just going to try to save the ones that have an open mind and and are willing to learn. That's what my channel is all about. So hey, that's just my 2 satoshis on it, man.
It's true.
And you can't save anybody that doesn't want to save themselves.
That's true. And you can also, you cannot eat your Netflix subscription. Matty B, are you looking at escaping your cell, or are you looking at that second passport, or is that an overreaction? Or are you just going to stay in the bar while Canada burns?
You know what? I belong to this men's club called the Winnipeg Squash and Racket Club. It's one of the only kind of men's club in the country still, and it has an interesting cachet of gentlemen, from doctors to entrepreneurs to just college kids. And I tell there's a lot of wealth there, right? So I'll always, every time they go to the winter, they'll go to these faraway places. I'm like, listen, let's do a piano bar. Where are you going? Puerto Rico, let's do it there. Hey, Costa Rica, you're doing it. Nicaragua, let's do it there. So I have all these feelers out. And one day I feel that I'm going to get the call. It's like, hey, we got this perfect spot. And as soon as I get that call, I'm gone. And don't get me wrong, I love Canada. I love old Canada. I love my family here and the friends that I still have and see. But I don't think it's going in the right direction. And I hope I can, in your social circle, you need to be the bridge to the other side. And I think that's what the people in this community are. Like, we're the first people to take that step out. And then once we're there and we say, it's okay, you can come on down. Then, you move your friends and your family if you can. But, like Blood said, you can't save everyone. And you just talk to people and they're just like a blank stare. Trudeau's great. Take the job. It's unbelievable. And as soon as you get that blank stare, you're just like, okay, have a nice day. We'll talk later.
I wish the best for you.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts your heart to see, because there are really smart people who are also just love to accept the programming. But as far as this programming goes, it has come to an end. Vic is the winner. He had the passion. He brought the maple syrup. It was pouring forth. Vic, send us off with at least some hope, or at least shill your stuff.
Okay, so I think it's a pretty good shill. I don't usually put out long form YouTube, but I did today. And I actually think it fits perfectly with this financial literacy conversation. The video is about the 3 skills that you need to become financially independent. And I'll give you the summary. Essentially, you need financial literacy. You need to learn how to sell, and you need to learn how to advertise and understand how important advertising is to the world. Go check it out on my channel. Search my name there is it? Yeah, there it is. And hey, I appreciate you guys so much for having me and listening to me ramble about how much I hate the Prime Minister of my country. Everyone on this panel was freaking awesome. So awesome to meet you guys. Matty, to meet you again.
Likewise.
And yeah, that's it for Vic.
Thank you so much, Vic. Thank you so much to everyone here on the panel. Thank you to our audience. Look, it's Friday. It's Freaky Friday. Get out there, touch grass, go to a bar, connect with people face to face, go listen to some live music, love your neighbor, and go to a house of worship on Sunday. That's all I got. It's me and the Nictator.
Get some sake.
Get some sake. Thanks, folks. Get out of here. See you at the top.